While the world scrolls, we build. While others talk, we turn wrenches, wire walls, and shape futures.
Trade isn't just what we do, it's who we are.
Welcome to Beyond the Trade, where we go deeper than the toolbox, beyond the classroom, into the real stories, skills, and sparks that make the trades thrive.
Brought to you by NESC Technical Institute, where skill meets purpose.
Hi, Jeremy. Thank you for joining us today. How are you?
Hi, I'm okay.
So let's get into it. Give us a brief description of who Jeremy is.
Well, I grew up in Diego Martin. I have 3 sisters. I was the middle child. Grew up in a normal area in Diego Martin. If anybody know Diego Martin, it's from Jean Avenue. I was always a person that look at technical things from a young age. I was always the person, I have 2 sisters, so I was always in my room just building little stuff and, taking apart little toys, anything I could find to build, like building. That was always me.
So it sounds like you always had intentions of going into some kind of trade.
Yeah, if you want to say that.
So how did wanting to go into a trade link to you doing welding?
Well, when I first got into welding, it started with light metal fabrication, right? So I was always into the basically electrical aspect of the technical area. From small, as I say, always building little stuff and trying new things. But welding was something that I never experienced, and I wanted to get into welding. I made a call that at the time was White Up, and I called the center and I asked about welding, and they say, well, no, we don't have welding available right now. They have this fabrication. I say, well, at the point in time, I was like, what is fabrication? Because people hear fabrication and think that has something to do with cloth or you're sewing something. And I said, no, it have welding involved and stuff. So I took the opportunity to start there. And from there, during the class, I was great at it. I realized that, is a way to enhance my creativity even more. And my teacher saw the knack in me to create things. He's like, use the artist. And I didn't know how he know that I would be a good welder, but he's the one that encouraged me to do the welding program after the fabrication course.
So for the people that don't know the difference between welding and fabricating, how would you distinguish the both?
Fabrication have more to do with actual building of stuff. Like it more entails the measurement and the precision work, right? So a fabricator, for say, we building this table, the fabricator is responsible for making sure the measurements correct, cutting the material, putting it together. The welder is the person that would come and finish, put it together in the sense of joining all the joints that it have to.
How did you feel when that teacher told you to pursue welding, seeing that you had done fabricating?
At first, I was hesitant. Actually, the rest of the class signed up before me. And he was behind me. He's like, you need to sign up. Get to the next level. I was like, I'm not sure, because my intention was to do different trades so I could be more skilled in different areas. So I wanted to go into electrical, do a little masonry, get a little touch of everything. But he saw that I could be good in welding. And I ended up signing up and I take it from there.
And how did you graduate in your class?
I was actually the only person in that welding program to leave with my full certificate.
Really?
I have awards, most outstanding trainee. Within that program, that was a level 2 welding program, and we did up to 6G pipe, and we was coded from there.
And what do you think distinguish you from the people that, like we just say, didn't complete these certificates?
Um, I believe one thing is that as I was always in that technical aspect and somewhat a bit of perfectionist. So I always wanted to, everything that I learned, I would go home, I would sit down, think about it, think about how I could improve. Sometimes I would go to sleep and dream welding. And some people will come back and be like, you have a welding machine home by chance because you couldn't weld that good yesterday. But when I go home, I would think about it and think about all the ways that I could improve.
Okay.
Right? And from that level 2 welding program, which would be SMAW, stick welding, my inspector now encouraged me to do the other level, which was TIG welding, GTAW. The only problem with that was it was in Galluta Point.
Oh.
So I, again, was hesitant. He was like, no, you could do it. He said the teacher is from wrong, and he volunteered the teacher to carry me to class before the teacher even knew.
And this was you from Diego Martin to Galliota?
Yeah. So eventually I joined the program. I went from Diego Martin to Galliota Point every day.
How was that? How was that experience?
I'd have to get up. Sometimes I would wake up. I can't even say wake up because sometimes I never really sleeping because I'm so enthusiastic about doing the welding that it's like my mind just want to go to class. And sometimes also like every hour, half an hour I go wake up because I don't want to be late.
So you never felt demotivated in any way?
No.
Even with the distance?
No. Right? So I would get up sometime 3:30. Before the sunrise, I out the house, going to Galliota Point in the morning.
And being that young welder, what was one of the biggest lessons you would have learned that you would now try to teach your students?
One of the biggest lessons I would learn, especially as a new welder, when I went into the industry, in class it's basically a simulation of what to expect. But when you go out into the field, you realize, hey, there's a whole different ball game. So that simulation where you had the ability to say, well, all right, I go weld my pipe at this height or this height. Then you come now and you have a pipe on the ground and you lie down and weld it. Or you have pipes running in between different machines, or you're setting up stuff like that. Then you need to position yourself. So it is be a little difficult. It's not what you would expect sometimes.
Yeah.
Right?
From then to now, have you seen any changes in the industry?
Yeah. In terms of the requirements to enter the industry now, has changed a little bit. So where back then you would have people that you meet people in the industry and they'll tell you, hey, I never really went to school to learn to weld, or the job requirements didn't require that much paperwork or fully understanding. Like, they wouldn't require you to know metallurgy or those kind of things, that the breakdown of metals and all those different things. But now we see in the industry where they want those requirements and they require more than just one process. So whereas the industry was, you could come in as a welder alone, now more industries looking for welder fabricator. So you have to be able to do the two, or you have to be able to do more than one process. SMAW, flux core, TIG welding, those things, right? So that was a major change in the industry.
Which we all teach, which is taught at NESC.
Yes, which is taught at NESC.
And apparently, Lisa, you have built a reputation to be one of the most liked instructors. Just by me interacting with your students, they speak very highly of you. What do you think makes your approach so relatable to the students?
Well, with my approach and my, if you want to say, teaching philosophy, I believe in the power of being close with somebody. So if it is, I want to impact somebody, you wouldn't be a stranger to them. So my students, and some people might say, well, so Mars, your students is basically just call you Mars. Like some of them, some would say sir, some would say Mars. And I have no problem with that because at the end of the day, our title doesn't define me. So in terms of that closeness with them, I build a relationship. So I could impact them more. So it's almost on a friend level, but you create that border between instructor and student still. So they still have respect for me, right? And people think that respect is, if they call me sir or Mars or whatever, but at the same time, you could say sir, and you could say something bad about sir in that same sentence, but you understand? But if it is, they have any issues, our students come to me with different issues, personal problems, and I always the first person they look to. So we have that type of relationship, and I try to build a relationship with all my students, and I find it easier to impact students when you actually get to know them better.
And how do you deal with students that may not feel as close to you from the beginning?
Well, I would try to, get them to loosen up, but have some that, the kind of distance themselves or whatever. So, sometimes I make little jokes with them. Everybody know me, I make little jokes thing. And even if I notice, well, it are students that I could look at now in my experience and see, well, it has something deeper, a deeper reason as to why they're secluded away from everybody, and I would pull them aside and talk to them, and then they might realize, hey, this person, they're for me, they're there with me, they would open up.
And what are some of the more rewarding moments of being an instructor?
It would be taking students from not knowing anything to taking them straight to that level where they could weld from welding the first level 1F to a 6G pipe to getting a code to crossing that stage for graduation. That is a proud moment for me.
And what advice would you have for people that want to get into welding and they may think that, it's too physically demanding?
I would always say, anybody come in my class first time, sit down in my class, I would tell you, here what? Tell me the reason you're here. Because the reason you're here would say a lot, right? And most people would come into welding and say, hey, sir, I want to make money. And I tell them wrong reason. It have easier ways you could make money. Within the welding field, you have to love it.
And also, what about females that may think, oh, this is a male-dominated field?
I don't think that should stop anybody.
What would you tell them to encourage them?
I would show them some of my past students that complete the program and were successful and have work out there, doing even better than some of the other so-called dominant male figures in the industry, right? So yeah, I would use that as their motivation.
And what are some careers that you would tell them about?
When in welding, you could become a CWI, which is a certified welding inspector.
And these careers are well paid?
Yes, very well paid, especially for a CWI. So just being a welder, it shouldn't stop just at welding. I would always tell anybody, because also welding is something that take a lot of a toll on your body, and you can't do it forever. In your old age, you're not going and strike up dark and say, well, yeah, I'm going to weld just like when I was young, right? It will take a toll on your body. So as I always tell people, you're doing welding, yeah, you get the experience. You could look at becoming a CWI, which is basically inspection, right? You could go into testing, NDT, particle testing, ultrasonic testing, all those things. You could become an educator, instructor. You have many opportunities with welding.
You mentioned that welding would take a bit of a toll on the body, and one of the more common issues you hear about is arc eye. Have you ever experienced arc eye?
Yes. I think every welder would experience arc eye at some point in time. No matter how you try, as I say, welding will take a toll on your body, especially your eyes, right? So, what arc eye is actually the light that flash from the welding. It actually causes a small tear in your eyes, and that takes a little while to heal sometimes. Sometimes a little day or two, right? So your eyes would be red, but other than the arc eye, the smoke would affect your lungs. The constant heat, right, would also have a serious toll on your body. With arc eye, I don't think I ever met a welder that did not get arc eye. As much as you try, we have auto darkening lens and all those stuff to try and protect your eyes. But sometimes also the smoke or other things are in your surroundings might contribute.
And how do you prepare students for this upcoming
arc?
upcoming arc eye?
The best way to prepare somebody for anything is to just let them know it's going to happen. Expect it, and you could have things on hand, your little eye drops. That is basically the most you could do for arc eye.
Oh, so that's why there's always tell you, don't look at the lights.
Yeah, that's the reason why.
And that would bring a lot of questions about safety.
Yeah. So in our practices, you must have your welding mask, to protect yourself. If you see welders, we always have on some big jackets to prevent from burns, because also welding doesn't only it's not like how you burn from an iron or a stove. There's actually second and third degree burns that you get from welding, because the welding arc starts at thousands of degrees.
And you'll teach safety in these courses?
Yes. So you must have full PPE even before you even enter the shop. So you must have on your clear glasses, you must have your welding mask, all these things. You must have PPE.
And mistakes happen. Have you ever personally made a mistake?
Mistakes, yes. In welding, you always make mistakes.
And when you made that mistake, what did you do?
Well, in welding, like the actual process of welding, most of the time you make a mistake, you could do a repair. And it's also good to teach the students that you would make mistakes and you could make a repair. Right? So there were times I was welding. I worked for a company in Claxton Bay, Deca Petroleum. We were doing some tanks, and I didn't realize that the material that I was welding was that thin. Right? So I did welding and I just burned through. Right? So it burned right through the material. And you just get a grinder, weld it back, fix it, and you continue on your way.
Well, I see the passion you have for welding. But if you could go back, would you choose another career path?
No.
No. This is it for life.
Yes.
Have you ever had a severe burn?
Not so much. We normally, like, on your hands, if you look, you'll see like little small burns, small series of burns, but I never get any bad burn. I get like shock and stuff, but that is also a thing in welding too. So people go into welding thinking, hey, it's just burns and archive we have to worry about, forgetting that, electricity is part of it too. And I was in a situation at a time where I was working offshore on a ship, and I was inside of one of the balance tanks and sitting on a pipe, cutting another pipe, and it was hot. It was really hot down in the tank. I was sweating, bucket a drop, and I rest my lead on the pipe that I was sitting on. And for a while, I feel like my body lift off the pipe with a shock. And I just when I realized what happened, I just put it down and I came out of the tank.
But how did you move on from that? Were you scared after that?
Yeah, you be a little shaken up at first, but again, sometimes you have to know that that is part of the job. It will
And
happen.
how did you feel the first time you had to go offshore and do this?
It was an experience because at first excited,
Mhm.
and then it's like a little dangerous out there.
So from working offshore, how did you end up into teaching?
Well, that I always ended up actually teaching, even though I was working. I always end up having to teach somebody actually from in my training. So the same teacher that would have encouraged me to pursue the second level of welding. He, at one time, we was in our booth, and I always trying to help the other students in the class come up to a higher level. Because although I was always ahead of the class, I would also try to help the others to come up. And he came in the booth and he was showing the guy something. And he asked the guy a question, and he pointed out certain things, whatever, and the teacher was like, yes. And I stopped the teacher and I tell him, I said, no, he doesn't understand what you're asking him, right? And I explained to him what he thinks it is. And after that, he was like, step outside the booth a little bit. So I thought, well, I'm in trouble. Why do?
Yeah.
He came outside the booth after and he was like, you have a knack for teaching. He says recognize certain things and see that is a good thing. He said, but when you get experience to come back and teach, right? And since that, I always noticed that whatever job I on, whatever work site I on, I always have to teach somebody something.
So you think that's how you ended up just wanted to pursue this?
Yeah. Always wanted to be in teaching from the time I realized that I had that ability.
Okay. And how do you feel about people who view welders as a dirty job? Do you think welding gets the respect it deserves in society, especially from young people or parents?
Welding is I wouldn't say that it is that much it is respected to some point now as a trade, but to say that it get the full respect that it deserves, I don't think anybody would really respect welding to that point unless they actually get into it and understand, hey, this is not for the faint of heart. I respect welding at the end of the day. You understand? But on a trade level, welding as a trade and for all trades, I think gained a great level of respect after the pandemic, where people realize, hey, these trades are the people that was actually working and making the money when everything was shut down.
Yeah.
They gain that respect.
If welding were to disappear tomorrow, how would we lose as a society?
Welding disappearing tomorrow, we would lose out on major infrastructure because if you look around, everything is welded basically. Anything that you see is metal, mostly is welded. So you would lose big buildings from even the mic stand in front of it.
Yeah,
Right?
everything is metal.
Has some level of welding to it.
What's one trade you think you will never do and why?
One trade I will never do. I could do almost any trade from welding to mechanics to electrical. One trade I would never do is probably hairdressing. I respect the hairdressers,
Okay.
you know?
Me
Yeah.
too. So one last question, Jeremy. What is your hype song? What is that song playing in your head when you walk in your workshop, you put on your gear, and you put down that helmet?
For me, it wouldn't be a specific song. It's a specific genre.
Okay.
I am Trini to the bone. You understand? And if it ain't soca, it ain't saying nothing.
I agree.
I love soca, and is a music that is keep you going, you know, and keep the mood in the right place.
Yeah.
So yeah, once it's soca, it's on.
Thank you so much, Jeremy, for being here and chatting with us.
Mhm.
Cue soca.